MiniComics Day 2016, Part 6. Okay, so for the covers, I decided to use the GNU image manipulation program because I think later versions of Manga Studio do have color, but it's a little harder to use. I spent quite a bit of time just trying to get everything working again because I guess it's been a while. So I made several layers. There is a layer for sketching, a layer for inking. That sound familiar? And I also have two layers, a dodge layer and a burn layer, one for highlights and one for shadows, because you can just paint on it and it'll make whatever's under it either darker or lighter depending on which you chose. Right there I am just doing circular selections and filling them with color and then eventually just, wiping it out. Here I just decided, normally I'd go to inks first, but I decided to do flats. I was toying with the idea of just only having flats, but I eventually do put in inking. So I just draw the shapes and then fill them in, but then that leaves kind of a goofy border because the edges of the brush are not the same color. It's really kind of annoying actually. And then I decided to just use a thick brush and write out the title. And eventually I decided that while it looks pretty good, it needs a little ink around it. And then I put a little big white box so I can just put some regular text over it. And here I just start inking our Stegosaurus. And I have the sketch layer visible so I can see what I'm doing. Not too different than Manga Studio, but not quite as good an inking experience, to tell you the truth. But that is Manga Studio's claim to fame, so not too surprising. I did leave the circle as is because I didn't want to have to try and outline a big circle. I didn't think I'd do it very well. And I didn't think it really needed it all that well. And so yeah, here I am outlining all the lettering, just like I told you I was gonna. I think it does read better. And then here I just put in my little text and center it and make it as big as I can to fit in the box. And that's it except for the shading on the cover. So on the back cover I use the eyedropper to get the same color and fill it in and then make a sketch layer where I just draw a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with a bite taken out of it, because why not? Then I abuse the circle tool again and just fill in a plate. And basically like the other one, I'm just filling in all the flat colors first before I do the final inking. There's a little jelly around the edge of the peanut butter sandwich. It's actually fairly nice, I think. And then let's see, I think I think I take away the inks or the sketch layer here pretty soon. See, that doesn't look half bad. I probably could have left that one, but it wouldn't have matched the other one. And there's no lettering for the peanut butter and jelly. So here I go. I'm just putting some ink in. That's PB at the top for peanut butter. Doesn't read very well. There's a little bite mark. Just draw it all up. And that one I did outline because it would have looked silly otherwise. And there it is without the sketch layer. And now I'm putting in my dark bits and highlights. I think I went a little overboard with these and my brush was too small, so it looks a little funny. So I have to go in and use the smudge tool later to clean it all up. But otherwise, that's it. I just saved them as PNG files like I saved the others. Or were they BMPs? Well, I think this one's PNG anyway. So and then it's time to put them in some page layout. I'm just using LibreOffice. So the covers are pretty easy. I'm using LibreOffice here because it's free. Here's basically what we did for the covers. So I did the covers and the interior separate because I'm going to have two files. One to print out in color for the covers and then double-sided black and white for the interiors. So the cover is fairly simple. I just made one page. You'll see that is just basically a regular landscape page, 11 by 8.5 in landscape. Has a 1/2 inch margin all around, and then I have 2 columns with no space in between. And then I have the front cover on the right, the back cover on the left. And if you go look at the picture properties, I have it set to 5 by 7.5 inches, and they're anchored to the paragraph. That's about it. And then I just put 1 in each column, and that's why you can see a manual column break there. It's like Control Enter if you're looking for it. 5 by 7.5 to paragraph. And yeah, that's it for the covers. So here is the interiors. Now this is going to get a little complicated, and since these are fairly big files, this gets pretty slow pretty fast. You would be better off if you had a real page layout program. I'm just using the word processor. Keep it nice and simple, and I really like the fact that Open our LibreOffice will write directly to a PDF. So anyway, if we go back to page layout, it's basically the same, one difference. So 11 by 8.5 because we're in landscape mode, 1/2 inch margins all around. But if you go to the columns, I now have about 1/8 of an inch between columns. I had it sort of button up to each other like the cover there originally, but it didn't look good because all the interior pages were too close to one another. So I had to make some changes to that. And so if we look at page 1 here, you'll notice that I took some liberties with it. It is now 4.87 instead of 5 inches wide and 7.5 inches tall, still anchored to paragraph, and that lets me have the extra space in between, but it does distort your pictures a bit. So if you wanted to, you could shrink the height to match, but I think it's a small enough amount that I don't really care, and it's my pictures I'm messing up. So I had to do that to all the pictures here. As I was trying to say before, you might notice that on the left here we have page 1, and on the right here, on the left here we have page 8, and on the right we have page 1. So this is page 1, and the next page is going to be the back of page 1. So the back of page 1 is going to be page 2, and the back of page 8 is going to be page 7. Not too weird, right? Here we are on page 2. So it looks about the same as page 1, right? But here's page 2, there's page 7. So you kind of got to do that little accordion type feel to it. So here's the back of the first page. So the next page is page 2, basically. So the front is going to have page 6 on the left and page 3 on the right. Because, you know, just trust me, it flips that way properly. If you're going to have someone at Kinko's do this, you want to do this. If you're going to send it over to a place like Kablam, you do not want to do this. If you're going to send it somewhere like Kablam, you just make it straight and ordinary page after page, and they'll figure it out for you. So, but, you know, if you're going to do that, read their specs, make sure I'm not sending you in the wrong direction. And then finally, on the last page, which is the second half of the second the second side of the second page, we have pages 3 and 4, and that would be our center area. So if you're doing like a 2-page spread, it would actually probably be easiest to do it in the center, but you can do it anywhere. It's just easiest. So that is basically what the interior looks like. It took me a fair amount of tweaking, and as you can see, it's fairly slow to move around because that is a lot of high DPI images. So there you go. Now it's on to combining it all. Let's put the printed copy and the covers all together. Not much to say about printing. I just took it to Kinko's and had them do it all. Stay tuned for the comic assembly portion day in part 7. Sorry, it's too hard to fit everything in this one video. So you get a part 7. Bye-bye.